All right, guys, welcome to Andrew Upshaw Fishing Live. We got a big show for you today. I've got Bradley Hallman, right? No, the other direction. That way. Bradley Hallman and Todd Castledine right here. Um, Guys, what have y'all been up to? I know, Hallman, you've been like the Energizer Bunny as of late, just doing all kinds of crazy stuff all over the place. Todd and I, we don't even get to see you no more. I hardly even get texts from you much other than on college football day when Ohio State's getting blasted.
When you
But what's
texted me
been going on in your world?
when you texted me to do this show, how long did it take me to respond? Yes.
No, like 30 seconds. I'll give you that. You were all over it.
Yeah. I've just been busy. Qualifying for the Elite Series. There's a lot of different outlets that want to visit about it. But personally, it's kind of like the same story. I mean, once you do one or two, like it's the same thing. So
yeah,
kind of over that now and ready to move on with a lot of other stuff. That's kind of why I was like, I'm glad he's calling me. Let's talk about some other stuff.
Oh no, we got a lot to talk about today. I mean, there's definitely some different stuff. A lot of things going on in my life and have been for a while now, and I haven't really been able to share with anybody. I mean, these guys know what's going on. They've known ever since the beginning, and been a big part of my process trying to get everything kind of switched over. Todd, what have you been up to? I know you got a lot of stuff going on. You're trying to sell your boat, so you're just not going to fish anymore, evidently. And you got a ton of YouTube videos.
No, my new boat's in.
Oh, is it?
My new boat's just sitting there waiting for me to come get it. I just haven't gone and gotten it yet. And then, I got that in, and I got to go. I don't really want to say what I'm doing with it because I'm going to do something different with it this year. A lot of it just had to do with what shirt Hallman has on. But I'm gonna do a whole big weird. It's gonna be a pretty cool deal I got lined up for that. And then I've just been making a bunch of videos lately. Actually, like I've been doing a whole bunch of stuff because that other series I'm gonna make after Gunnersville. I mean, it's gonna be like a whole Yellowstone production. It's gonna be like 14 episodes. It's going to be a big long deal. So I'm trying to get that all edited up as well. So I'm having to do I'm doing I'm doing the stuff I'm doing now and editing that stuff. So I'm like working double time on videos. And since I have no more tournaments, I've been doing a lot more with doing stuff with Strike King.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know. I was on the phone with you the other day. We were talking about baits and designs and all kinds of cool stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that for sure. That's the cool thing about what Todd does is he helps. He's the creative mind behind new products for Strike King as far as baits go. I don't know what the heck Hallman's doing.
My camera, it will not stay up. It's like driving. It's just falling down, and I can't get it. I mean, and it's got this little chicken. And I'm like, finally, I've mounted it to something that will stay put.
Oh, this is a good comment right here. Is Todd going 10 boat like Suckup and Christie?
No.
That's a no.
No, do y'all know where I live? Dude, I fish Rayburn. Like, there's no way I am. No, you better have a big boat. You fish where I live. You better have a big boat.
Hey, speaking of boats, I saw an Instagram, I think it was Instagram or Facebook post by Frank Scalish Jr., and he was busting through ice talking about how serious, fishing is and stuff. Dude, that guy must be in a machine because there ain't no dang way I'm going to sit there and start breaking through ice with my bass boat just to go try to catch a bass. It ain't happening.
You've never done that?
I have done it, but it ain't like it's fun. No. I'm not sitting there posting and saying, look how exciting this day is.
Yeah.
Especially living in Oklahoma, you almost have to do it from time to time.
Yeah, sometimes in the winter we've had some tournaments where it's like, we'll just go break the ice. The whole way to be frozen, we'll miss sections of it.
That's the difference. You're doing it for tournaments.
Yeah.
I ain't out there doing it like, I'm glad where I live. I ain't gonna lie.
No doubt. Hallman and his camera equals monkey in football. I feel like I know that statement.
I agree.
That's great. Well, guys, I'm not going to keep everybody waiting on the news. At least the biggest part.
Well, I want to know about this.
What?
What about his song?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Hallman, what song did you pick?
I was doing good. I had one picked. I was between 2 or 3, and we're still not there.
Oh, okay.
I had one, and I got jumped by Duncan yesterday when I was going with him, or the other day on Low Budget Live, and we've got a mutual friend, and so he texted me last night, and he was like,
That'd be cool,
dude. Why don't you get one of them guys to freaking write you one?
I probably could. He said they've actually got a new album that's about to drop. He said they've got one on there that I need to use.
I know. That's what I was thinking. That's kind of what was in my head.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
So it'll be something Turnpike now. It's going to be Turnpike Troubadours. Probably 7 and 7.
Well, I'm excited to see Hallman on the Elite Series. I can give 2 craps what a song is or any of that stuff. I'm jealous as hell, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm excited to see him go throw down with them dudes and have some fun fishing for once, since I hadn't seen him have fun in the last 3 years. So
we've had some fun, dude.
We've had a few places that were fun. A few. And otherwise, it's been a hell of a grind. No doubt about it.
Tell them your big news, dude. This is a big deal.
Man,
I've been keeping our mouth shut for a long time about this.
Yeah, I've been working on this deal just to kind of give everybody the backstory, I've been working on this deal for about 1.5 years now. It's been a big part of my life and my family's life. I mean, it was part of the reason we moved back to Texas. But I did, in fact, I purchased acquired Let's Fish TV from Barry Stokes. And I will be the host and owner of the show. And I've been working with Barry for, like 6 years now, shooting shows and episodes, random episodes and things like that. And this year I took on about half the load, which was about 14 to 18 episodes. I don't even remember. I mean, it was a lot though. And next year I take on the entire load minus our guest host, which if you watch Let's Fish TV, you saw Hallman shoot an episode. You saw Todd shoot a couple episodes, and they're going to be a big part of the show moving forward as well. Todd especially. I'm going to have Hallman still shoot a show or two next year, but it's more so Todd has a little bit more availability, and I don't want to strain Hallman any more than what he already is with everything going on. And then I'll also have Matt Pangrat coming on to shoot a couple episodes. And he's already he's getting ready to shoot one here pretty quick for a white bass show. So it'd be pretty cool. But we have a really great list. Guys, I don't think y'all understand. Like, I know y'all too understand, but the audience as it is, like, taking over a show isn't as easy as just let me go shoot some shows and send it into a network. I have a whole list of people to work with, from my editor, Garrett Matthews. I have a social media director. My wife is coming on at a big capacity to help handle kind of the background stuff with contracts and things like that, as well as me handling every negotiation of contract, getting everything to editors, organizing basically the entire time. And, it's a big step in a direction for my media. It's actually owned by Upshaw Outdoor Media LLC. That's going to be the ownership of the actual show Let's Fish TV. It airs on Bally Sports Southwest, Southeast, the Sportsman's Channel, Waypoint TV, among other streaming platforms. But both Hallman and Todd kind of got a taste of what I go through on a day-to-day basis when it comes to the TV side of things. And I'm going to be honest, guys, that is the reason my YouTube has been lacking. I would love to tell you that it's, me just being lazy, but guys, I've been working my tail off to try to get the show up off the ground and get it where I need it to go. And the show is Let's Fish TV. I'll drop some links in the comments whenever we're done with the show in the description, and y'all can go check it out. But Hallman, you shot an episode of Let's Fish TV. Tell us what your thoughts are on the whole process. And you've been in the background for, I mean, both you and Todd have been in the background on this from day one. So
I think that the process was difficult for me. I think it was a little bit difficult for Todd too, but it was difficult for me. I knew the other day when Panger did one this year, I was like, he's going to knock that thing out of the park because that's like what he's really good at. It's like because you've got all these directed phrases where things start and stop, and you've got to use those phrases. And like Todd and I have discussed, it's not really in our natural verbatim language to say things quite like that. But the fact that it has to be broken up, it made it very difficult. And then the fishing part's just fishing, I mean, it's always either hoping it's going to be really good and you get there and it's usually not. But making the show and catching some fish is pretty incredible. Hell, dude, on that one shot for you last year, I think I shot it in the middle of June or something. And I caught one off the bed in Oklahoma, and I wasn't expecting. I just was like, oh my God, there's one locked down on the bed. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked, but went ahead and caught it on the show.
Todd, you've got to kind of see a lot,
I got a lot. I got a lot. I got more to talk about than you probably talk about.
Hey, 1 second before you jump into yours, Sean O'Brien said, I loved working my regional reports on Let's Fish TV. Loved working with Garrett and Upshaw. So Sean, and I don't want to fail to mention this before I get too deep into it, is that Let's Fish TV is a fishing report TV show that airs 39 weeks of the year, starting in March and ending at the last week in November. It is a very long show, and every single week we rely on guys like Sean, among quite a few other reporters from all throughout the South and Southeast, to give us fishing reports of their area and maybe what lake's hot, what baits are hot, and things like that. And Sean does a fantastic job. I actually met Sean through Bradley Hallman, and it was a good friend in Hallman's, and he actually came and stayed with us. I think it was at Pickwick when we did like this, like co-angler, come mingle with us, practice with us kind of thing.
Yep.
And we got to be really good friends with him, Clay, and a bunch of other guys that have stayed with us over the years in that particular program. But it just goes to show you how networking really helps you. I met Sean through Hallman, and now he's one of my reporters working for me and doing an absolute bang-up job. So, huge shout-out to him and what he's done. But, Todd, let's hear your take on it.
Okay, it might be long-winded, but I just want to. So I've had the opportunity to do film. I don't know how many shows, 4, 5, 6 with Strike King and their Pro Team Journal. So those are usually bait specific deals, shows, right? So it'd be the first one I ever did was a pop and perch one with Phil Marks, right? So I got to see how that whole production went down, and I will say, I don't know what it is about TV shows. TV shows are harder than tournaments to a degree. There's a lot of factors that go into them, but the bait specific ones are sometimes very, very difficult in the sense of, and I know Strike King, and I'll bring this up with you because Strike King for the most part wants to do them on public lakes. Like we're not a good show is pretty much done on a public lake. And I got to do like the Mark Zona show. It was on Rayburn. I've done 2 shows. I've done Scott Martin shows, right? I've done all but one of them were done on public lakes. I did one with Clark Winlet on fishing and hunting Texas. So I've been a part of a couple of different ones. And what I'll say about yours is like the 2 I've done with you, you literally called me up and were like, hey, I need a show done in a week or 2. Let's go. And I'm like, all right. So it's pretty cool because we've had to go pick a lake, and just go out there. And we had to get it done. And it was cool that we didn't really have a set plan on what we were going to do. We were just going to go catch fish. But that's really like what a true show should be. Right, is where you go out there to a public lake and you're doing it pretty much a week or 2 before it airs. But the other thing, why it's you're trying to get a specific number of fish. Like how you're trying to catch big ones for the show because it just looks cool. and you're hoping that all the equipment works. When you've got to make like you might get one or two of those catches, and you got to make sure that everything is like dialed in when that happens, because I don't know how any of those guys sit around for 8 or 10 hours with a giant camera. Some of them, they're not as big, but like they have to have that camera rolling, and it's a lot of boring process. I mean, go sit around there and film someone for 10 minutes, not catch anything. Now imagine that for like 4 hours, right? Because and then to get that one shot and that's all great. Like you've done a good job on that, and that's hard. But I will go with Hallman. Okay, if the show's way harder than the actual tournament, talking, like what we had to do about the talking part was just hilarious. And I'm actually doing, so I thought this would be really cool for people to see, right? Because no one's ever done anything like that. So we were on air earlier and we were talking about what we've been up to. And I was like, hey, Andrew, I just finished up the first YouTube video I've done about, I video like the behind the scenes of me and Andrew shooting the show at Palestine. And so I had a camera rolling the whole time, and I wanted to show people like what it's really like, because it is like the show, but there's just funny stuff and things that go on behind the camera that are just funny, especially with me and Andrew, because it was nonstop, like back and forth. Anytime I did anything wrong, Andrew yelled at me. Anytime a fish missed the top water, he got mad at me because I didn't do something right, which we would be doing anyways, regardless of whether the camera's on. It was all fun, but the only bad part about this, and it's going to be on there. It's not going to be great video, but I recorded. I didn't mean to, but I recorded the aftermath of when we have to speak. Mm-hmm. And Hallman, me and Hallman, like you said, we can get on there and talk for an hour straight, and it's easy.
But it's talking about the things that we like. It's the word for word verbatim. Like, okay, well, two sentences, and it's like
right. And the hardest ones are like there was a word for word verbatim of a sentence or two. Then it goes into saying, "Hey, now do your own thing," and then end in a verbatim sentence again.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, make it 2.5 minutes long. Go. And you're like, all right. And so I can't air all the things that were said during that because of me and Andrew. It was really good. There's a lot of it on there. Some of it might be inappropriate because we were laughing so hard about basically me sounding like a complete moron because you think it's good because you're memorizing. And Andrew like looks at you like, basically he's like, you got it. I'm like, oh, I nailed it. He's like, well, kinda, but you kinda talk like this, and because it was hilarious. So there's some good stuff on there, but it's pretty funny.
We'll be getting better at it though.
Look, see, this is what we're talking about. We try to do a show with Upshaw, and he just vanishes from sight.
It's that Toledo Bend Hemp Hill service out there.
But it's good stuff. I enjoy. Like I can't wait to do those shows. Like I look forward to them. They're fun.
Yeah, no, it was. It's always a lot of fun shooting. And for what people don't understand is, I actually was running the camera for Todd. So not only am I in front of the camera, hosting the show, but in certain situations, I'll actually go run a camera, and I'll probably run a camera for both the Todd shows, or I think he's going to do more than 2 next year. Just for the fact that I kind of know what I want and what I need and things like that. And I can get the stuff to the editor really quickly as well.
Hey, Pete's comment, take 21. No, like, dude, there were times we took 21 takes. No doubt.
I did too.
No doubt.
Oh yeah. Especially of the trying to do the original intro to the show. Like, oh my gosh.
It's those send-offs. It's those send-offs where you send it back to, somebody like what Sean O'Brien's doing, where he's doing the local report from the Southeast or something, and it's getting all that verbatim right. It's only like 2 sentences, and then mix in, like what Todd said, a little bit of what you want, and then hit these 2 notes right here. They've got to be mentioned and do it all in 73 seconds exactly.
I almost remember him. It's like, Hey, we're gonna take it back to our local. It had to be nightmares. Yeah,
I
it gave me.
can do it. I can do it. No question. Right now.
Yeah, you've done enough of them, but dude,
I think Panger was really good at it because after he did it, I was like, "How many takes it take you?" He's like, "Just one." That's what he's good at. Like he's all those years of doing what he's been doing, he's good at that.
He said he had a good time. He said it was the most stressed out he's ever been.
He was worried about catching fish. He's crappie fishing. He's worried about catching fish.
No, well, that's what I was saying. Is that like it's harder than a tournament? It's when I say it's harder. So it doesn't matter who it is, right? If it's Andrew, whoever it is, you got some guy filming you. You're trying to do a show for them. You're trying to make it good. You're trying to catch fish, and usually they kind of rely upon you in the sense of, hey, you think this lake will be good? Okay, right. And so it's all on you, but it's in a tournament, it's all on you for you. Mm-hmm. This is all on you for someone else and for another product. So you're trying to like, we want to knock it out of the park when we do it. So, I mean, it's not it's not crazy stressful, but it is like, you want to make it happen. And when it happens, I get more excited sometimes when it happens in a show than I do in tournament. Because in a tournament, it's all business. But here you're like, oh yeah, I got that. I was like, that's gonna be a good one.
Well, and and the bad side about TV, what people don't see is when you're out there fishing and you need about 5 to 6 bites, and you get that 5th or 6th bite and it's a big one, and you get it in and you talk and everything's great and you let the fish go, and then you realize your audio was out, or like something was unplugged, or there was so much wind noise or static or whatever, and the fish just doesn't count. It's just like, oh, okay, that one doesn't count now. And now we got to go do it again. And it's a lot of highs and lows in TV. Like, it's so many. I remember calling Hallman when he did his show, because there was a lot of wind noise, because there was a bunch of, dude, it was blowing like 30 that day. And I had to have him reshoot like a couple of different talking segments and a fishing tip. And like, I felt so terrible because I'm like, Hallman, I need this too, and I need this too, and I need this too, to the point where I was like, if I call him again, he might murder me, because it's just so intricate. Everything is so, it has to be the way it is. Because we literally have about 22 and a half minutes to talk, and the rest are commercials, and everything has to be formed up and made to work. So it is very, very stressful. When it comes to TV.
Then you get a tough day and you're out there, and like I was messing around, and I caught one on a frog. It was the only one I caught on a frog on like a popping perch, and it smokes it. I freaking catch it. And of course I got it on braid and a bigger rod. So a 2 1/4 doesn't really fight that much, but whatever. I get it in. I'm like, oh, he's just shaking his head back there. I'm like, whatever. Cause I know that meant we're not going to use that. And I'm like, okay, thanks. So like every time, like when it's tough, catch like he's like, we're not going to use that one, and I'm like, all right. So, it's funny.
There's an overwhelming question. I've seen it a couple different times. Are you going to still fish the Bassmaster Opens? And Todd and I talked about this yesterday in depth, actually, in which I don't get a lot of time to sit there and talk to my buddies as much, but I talked to Todd about it. And I did sign up for the Bassmaster Opens for next year. How long I'm going to be fishing the Bassmaster Opens for the next handful of years, the elites or whatever, is kind of unknown. It depends on how crazy the show is, and how labor intensive it is, and it already has been crazy. I definitely saw a dip in my performance this year from just having my brain everywhere else, and I don't foresee it really changing next year. I might go out and have the best year of my life, and if I do, then that's great. But obviously, number one priority is making sure this TV show goes exactly the way it's supposed to go. And that's just the reality of it. And quite honestly, Hallman was with me all year. I had a lot of opportunities to be where he was. I had 1 or 2 bad events that I just wasn't on them very good, but I had a lot of fantastic practices, and like to the point where I was like, dude, I might actually win this one or that one or whatever. and then it just something changed or something happened, or and it's just a reality of bass fishing. Um, and that's just how it goes. I mean, I would love to chalk it up to I could have held my mouth differently, but I mean, it's just sometimes you have bad years, and so that's just the reality of it. Um, and Pete said, "Are you going pro?" Speaking of pro, I actually did get an invite from some trail the other day, some American bass angler trail. I actually saw Blake. What was his name from Alabama post about it.
Smith?
No, not Blake Smith, another Blake. That used to fish FLW tour, and he was signed up to fish it, but it was 100 boat uh, maximum trail. It's basically it looks like an MPFL kind of thing, but yeah, it was like kind of out of nowhere. But no, I'm gonna stay with the opens. I looked around at other organizations. Obviously, you're seeing a mass pull out on the Major League Fishing side of things, from not necessarily the Bass Pro Tour, but the Invitational side, from Pro Circuit to Invitational. And so I wasn't going to go that direction. And then obviously, like I like the idea of the MPFL and what they're doing, but I kind of want to see what they do for the next couple of years. Todd, what are you going to fish next year? Speaking of going to fish something,
A whole bunch of stuff.
a whole bunch of stuff.
Like
I know you will. You know what's really funny, Hallman? I live like I don't know about 55 minutes from Todd. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not even gonna fish no team tournaments with me next. I got booted to the curb.
He got Russell Cecil back.
He got Cecil back and said, "Hey, you know what, Andrew Upshaw?" And booted me back on.
I fished a whole circuit with Brent, and I don't think me and Brent are even fishing. But the team tournament stuff kind of threw. So we go in ups and downs in team tournament stuff, and the team tournament, and none of this is about Brent. It's the team tournament stuff. Like I plan on fishing one team circuit next year, as of right now, and then other than that, there's another one that we're thinking about maybe fishing. Now, I'm not saying I won't fish some with you, Andrew, because me and you never fished a circuit. We just fished.
We fished like 3 bass champs. 2 or 3
whenever we wanted to. So yeah. I mean, that might still be the deal. I'm not. It's going to be like that where me and you might call each other up and like, hey, this weekend, let's roll. But I don't, as of right now, it's going to be a lot of Toyotas, the opens. I think we're going to fish that Brandon Belt thing. That's like the only 3. I've got all the other tournaments scheduled up.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm going to say I'm definitely fishing those. So
what team trail are you fishing? Some KCT actually asked.
That Brandon Belt one.
The Belt, yeah.
Just
you're
because
you're not fishing the Texas Team Trail though, are you?
It's a thought.
Yeah.
It's a thought only because and I talked to him at the championship, so I had an idea what they were going to do about giving a boat away to Angler of the Year. And me and Russell have won Angler of the Year twice. And then we would have won it a third time. When I say we would have won it a third time, we had so much of a lead going into the championship that I think if we caught one fish in 2 days, we win it. But I was at the All-American. And then we've come in second. So we won it twice, should have won it that time, came in second another time. And even me and Jason were leading last year going into the championship. And then this year, I think me and Brent finished 4th. So to win a boat on Angler of the Year in a tournaments that you've made top 5 in Angler of the Year like 6 times, kind of like it should be a no-brainer to go do. I don't know if we're going to do it.
I mean, it's a lot of time, guy. I mean, like when it's all said and done, it's crazy to think. That's what kind of Todd and I were reminiscing about yesterday is where we were at, years ago, and what we used to do before like YouTube and before now TV and all these different things that we're involved in. And tournaments are just kind of like it's just not the same as what it was. And this is actually an interesting question. What do you think the opens will be like in the next 3 or 4 years? I mean, I don't foresee the opens ever really changing.
Me neither.
I mean, they're getting full fields. They're not having any problems. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But it's not necessarily that it's not broke. It's just everybody keeps showing up.
That, that's the thing, Andrew. Everyone shows up. And so even like all these, the reason I'm not high on team tournaments around Texas right now is that and when I say that, you're like, oh, there's a bunch of them. Well, that's the problem. There's so many of them. And what you're gonna find is I think I've had a lot of discussions with this over the last month for a lot of different reasons. I'm not going to go into it with a lot of different people, a bunch of different people about a lot of things. And that way of what I used to do is gone.
Yeah.
Like you can't make a living in Texas fishing tournaments anymore. And that group of guys and I was the young one of the group. Right. So I was the youngest guys fishing with this older crowd. And when I say older, we're talking 30s and 40. That group traveled around to different lakes and put up their money and wanted to go compete. That's not the case anymore. That group of guys is getting older now, and that younger group isn't doing it. And they don't want, so like there's more of an emphasis on, in my opinion, I might get some hate for this, but like it seems like there's more of an emphasis on they don't care about the money part of the tournaments. And so they don't look at it that way. They don't look at it as how do I make money? It's like, how do I make a name for myself? And you can tell them to their blue in the face that just because you go fish these tournaments doesn't mean you're going to make a name for yourself. Like that's not really like, I told a guy the other day that he was asking about the invitationals. And I was like, okay, what about them? And he goes, well, I was like, well, you got 6 chances to go win a tournament. You think anyone's going to, no offense, but if you win a tournament, one of those 6, are people going to come knocking down the doors to give you sponsorships? Is anyone going to remember that a year from now? And I'm like, man, they won't. I said, I'm sorry to tell you that because there's so much going on in the tournament world. And I was like, so it's very, very, very difficult to go make a name for yourself just kind of doing it that way. You have to be different.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I mean, it's just a different landscape from where we were even 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And the reality is we've all had to branch out, and we've all, we got really lucky. All 3 of us got really, really lucky when we left the FLW tour. Todd and I were talking about a sponsor that he used to have years ago, and when he left, it was the happiest he'd ever been. And leaving was hard, but like once he did it, he was happy. And the same thing with the FLW tour. Did I ever look back and say, man, I just wish it was what it used to be, but it's not. It never has been.
And it's never going to go back.
And it's never going to go back. And so the best thing we ever did was to bet on ourselves instead of betting on or having somebody else bet on us and promote ourselves. And that's what we've done. I mean, we all started a YouTube channel. We all started working together. And
none of it was planned.
No, heck no.
Like we didn't leave FLW going, we're going to go do this.
Yeah, no.
I would love to sit up here and tell everyone how smart we were, but we weren't. We just were like, we just went, and all of a sudden it kind of
this came from the very first time we were together after we'd all left and we were in Florida, and Todd was like, Hallman, what if we just sit out by the pool and I just turn on that stupid GoPro? I mean, no lighting.
You couldn't even see.
Terrible. And Andrew came out. I think we talked him into coming out there with us for a while, but the 3 of us just sit there and visited. And then Todd goes, I think I'm going to put a name on this, like Bass Angler Therapy, and we'll just shoot one of these at every tournament. And it was literally just like an hour and a half of that GoPro running at night, and us just sitting there after dinner with a couple of cold pops. And this is
and that idea came from my buddy John Salamone, who came over to Rayburn one time, and we were all sitting out by the fire, a bunch of us, and it was like it was a semi who's who of Rayburn was over there at times, and like like everyone just got to telling stories about like these tournaments that they won. Like I was sitting around the fire and there's like 7 guys there, and it's like not small tournaments. I'm talking about like Everstarts and Toyota and like all these big, or like, you know, he won a boat over at this state, all these things. And John's like, dude, you have no idea how much money someone would pay to sit in my seat and listen to this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course, we were just goofing around like campfire stuff. Yeah. And I was like, well, man, you know, like, but then I was like, well, if I enjoy it, like if I like listening to Hallman tell his stories about wherever he was, or you, Andrew, or whatever, I was like, if I like it, someone else, there's bound to be 3 other people in the country that think that that's pretty interesting because I find it interesting. So I
just remember turning on the YouTube once. You posted a couple of them, and I was just amazed at how bad the lighting and the quality was, and like no microphone, just straight like the old GoPro that had no microphone to it.
Yeah,
but hey, it worked for us. We were low budget like Duncan, I guess.
Hallman didn't want to do it. He was like, "This is going to be stupid," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "I don't really care, Hallman. Get out here. You got nothing else to do." I remember it was at Florida. I remember that screened-in porch area by the thing, and I set it up on this weird chair, and Andrew's over there complaining about the light the whole time, and I'm like, "Just shut up and sit down and just talk." Yeah, Andrew was mad about that, and I was the only one that was like, "I don't care."
Well, you know, and that's what's funny is, I mean, it's just crazy to think where we were and how far we've come as far as whether it be editing or, you know, you actually understanding lighting now and trying to get at least a little bit better lighting. And, you know, you're still got the same background, obviously. Everybody knows that you haven't redecorated your blessings wall. You've literally had blessings in your background forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, the deal is it's like, you know, I remember some of our fish offs that we've had together. I mean, just like encompassing our whole group. You know, it hasn't been, you know, Hallman kind of went and did his thing, and then Todd went and I went and did mine, and we just never talked. And it just like we did our own YouTubes. And I think that was a part of the big deal. It's like we all kind of brought our own different kind of spin to things. You know, I'm definitely the more tech savvy person, whereas y'all have y'all strengths, and I have my weaknesses, just like anybody else. But I really do. It's just reminiscing back of like, you know, 5 years ago, I'd have never thought about owning a TV show, much less been on a TV show. Or, you know, I mean, I grew up in the mentality that all you had to do is go out there and catch them. You know, like if you caught them, that was enough, and the sponsors would come. And that's not the reality that we live in anymore. It's just not.
I don't know if it was the reality back then either, I guess, unless you could catch them like Denny Brower. But, you know, Dickie's a great example. There's a guy that lived around Texas, and he caught him about as good as anybody could catch him in his prime. Is Dickie still fishing the invitationals, or is he out?
I don't know. I'll see him probably here, and I haven't talked to him about it. And you could go catch him, man. You could go catch him in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did it.
You could in Oklahoma too.
Huh?
You could in Oklahoma too, and especially if you had like some kind of gig where you could get off work a lot, you know, so like you could work and double dip, you know, you could do really well.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy. He's going fishing with me tomorrow, probably Thursday, and he was kind of like, I was getting the whole lowdown on. He's got some thing. It's crazy. There's 2 stories. Like he's got some things popping up that they asked him to do a video on. So he's asking me questions, and I'm like, all right, dude. He's like where I was at one point in time. I'm like, he's like, how do you keep your GoPro running? I'm like, all right, look, I'm not doing this over the phone. We're gonna get out there. I'm gonna help you out, because I remember Scott. When I did the first show with him, helping me a little bit on being over dramatic. I remember us helping Hallman. I used to get mad at Hallman because I was like, Hallman, I need you here. I need you at that level that I like seeing you at, because you're down here, but you got to figure out like, and it wasn't something that was not normal for Hallman. Hallman gets here a lot, and it's awesome when he gets there. But I was like, I need you there all the time when you shoot some of these videos. But I was telling him, he was asking about some guys fishing opens and like some YouTube guys, and I was like, well, I'm not going to get into it, but you know, the Red River. I think y'all remember the Red River shootout on Texoma when we did that video, because that was a blast, right? But what was going on with YouTube at the time? There was a guy like who fished Texoma before us and some things, and so I was like, yeah, man.
Dude, I'll blow that out of the water. I don't care. It was one of the Googans that shot a video. We didn't even know it. He was in the same marina in the same cove we were in the day before and shot a video. And he came away with the end of it. He'd caught 1 12-incher. And we went in there and we tied basically with a day of fishing with you and Bonds and me and Upshaw. You think you won?
I mean, someone had to have won.
I don't think so. I think your scale is jacked.
Well, I said someone had to have won.
Anyway,
but regardless,
we didn't like crush like what we could have potentially crushed at Texoma before, but we caught them good.
We had 19 pounds.
Yeah. I know.
Well, that's a big difference between that and a 12-incher. I mean, we went up there, showed up that morning.
2 different boats of 19-pound bags.
We both had 19-pound bags. And we showed up there that morning, no practice. I mean, I live 4 hours away. We just showed up there and caught him. And I was telling that guy, I was like, hey, man, that YouTube, what we started doing with YouTube was changing the way people looked at YouTube, in my opinion, because I always felt that guys were giving off information. I still have it to this day. I get guys that are like, you'll give out some stuff that we would all think of. Like, I might get a phone call like, why did you let that out? And some other guys like, hey, why don't you give off more tips on a chatterbait? And I'm like, dude, some of those are overrated. All these little tricks and tips and things. Like, you can only do 14,000 tricks to a chatterbait. But in all honesty, if you're not throwing around a fish, all those tricks are worthless. And I just think sometimes, but yeah, man, like some of those trips we did were pretty awesome. Andrew, we're not going to do that with Hallman anymore, right? I mean, he's big time now. We won't.
Yeah, we're here. We're like there, and he's like there now.
Yeah, the next time we do one, it's going to be like him and Jason Christie against us. And I'm like, oh, thanks, man.
Mr. Big Deal.
Well, hey, keep it fair. Andrew did move out of Oklahoma, and he is in Texas with you, so I think that is fair. And Jason's got a YouTube channel that he can use.
Oh, so he's been thinking about it.
Should be the deal. It's me and Jason against you two.
Or him and Edwin. I bet we could get Edwin to do it with him.
Flipping docks in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And Christie and Hallman are driving. They're going to fish 42 docks that day, and not one of them are going to be side by side. It's going to be dock.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to be running docks all over Grand Lake while me and you are like, hey, I got 3 bites down this 50-row docks. Okay.
I don't know which one we're going to get bit off of, but we might catch a fish.
Hallman's like, hey, man, just throw on the right-hand side behind that thing over the cake right there. Yep, there she is, 5-pounder.
Yeah.
I hate that crap. That's why I moved from Oklahoma, because I can't do that crap. I come to Texas, at least I can find a grass line or a turn in a grass line and say I'm going to catch one right there. And I
or school out there in 30.
Do what?
Or school out there in 30.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it.
I got a question. And I know we talked about it before, and I think a lot of the people that are on here live, they've already asked it 2 or 3 times. What are you going to do with your Opens Pick'em next year to replace me? I know we talked about Duncan. Have y'all visited with Luke about that yet?
We hadn't. I mean, we're going to still have the Opens Pick'em.
I know who everyone wants.
I know. Huh?
Everyone all said the same person.
Who, Duncan?
No.
Who?
Billy.
Oh, yeah. No, everybody wanted Billy. That's right.
Yeah.
And, we've discussed it a little bit, but quite honestly, like, we're going to still have Opens Pick'em. Too many guys really enjoy that show. And quite honestly, we got to at least have a year under our belt talking about Hallman and getting it.
We're doing it. It's my favorite show.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Well, just for me personally.
Fun. Yeah.
I won't. If Panger's not back on, I won't do the show. Panger has to be on because that's the funnest part is me beating Panger.
I think y'all picking on each other is pretty.
That is the best part.
Yeah.
It drives him so crazy. And if he beats me by 5,000 points next year, I won't think about it. Well, because I won't put any work into it like I normally do. so it's fine. But I just like messing with paint. That's the best.
Last weekend we had a little shindig up here. Michael Strands that owns Lucky Lure down here put on a little party Saturday night. We had a fish fry in his garage. It was probably 15, 18 guys came, just fishermen from around here. Panger, being Panger, about halfway through the party says, hey, I brought all my poker chips and stuff. This is what he does. Him and Mike McClellan, they have done it for years. And for 20 years, I have watched them bring their little poker chips in, and everybody buys in for $20. And then, you get an opportunity to buy in another if you want, if you run out. It's basically a fundraiser for McClellan, and it's a fundraiser for Panger. That's what it is, because they're extremely good at poker. And so I always donate. The other night, I got him. We went all the way to the end. It was me and him, and I drew a straight and beat him. And I let him know about it, Todd. You'd be proud.
Hey, so I doubt Panger will listen to this. So y'all do me a favor for next year. Because I know, I just thought about this. I know a guy. So there was a Hooked Fishing used to track me and Panger on something he did, and he used to always tag us on Instagram. And so we'd get those messages, whatever, and then I'd always post or share the messages, private messages from people of like how I got Panger or how he got mad. So since he's probably not going to watch this, I want everyone that watches this next year to either follow. You don't have to follow me. I care less about this. Just follow Matt on Instagram, just so you can private message him. And anytime those shows go up, and if I beat him, and what's going to make him mad is if y'all know me, I don't care. So don't say anything when he beats me, because he's liable to beat me every time. But if I beat him, y'all just flood his direct messages. It's like, if you want to see a guy get so mad, if y'all do that, dude, he will. I'm telling y'all, this is so bad. If he gets 100 private messages from people of screenshots about how I beat him, dude, y'all want to see a guy lose it on? Isn't this so good, dude? Y'all know what's about to happen, right? I might have just opened up a floodgate that I can't stop. I almost feel bad about it now, but it will be funny. If I do it one time, he's going to get so mad if he gets 100 messages on his Instagram that are just dogging him about how he got beat. This is great.
Oh, God.
Tell me that's not good.
We're going to have to admit Panger if we do that. Like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, no one say anything to him though. No one know, because he probably won't watch this. He won't know.
Yeah, he won't watch this whole thing. He'll watch like 5 minutes of it or something.
Yeah. So y'all do. I'll remind y'all when it's getting closer to be like, hey, y'all go do this. Oh, he'll lose it.
I mean, yeah, I really, that is one of the most fun shows that we started. And I did that with conjunction with Bassmaster to kind of bring some light to everything going on. And it's been just a super good time, no doubt about it.
I keep track of bass. I don't watch a lot of those shows. One, because we're either fishing, right? Or a lot of times I'm at sporting events with my kids and stuff. But yeah, man, I keep track of those tournaments way more now.
Okay, this is a great point. This is what you need to do, Todd. When you're doing them, just like randomly through it, just like throw out the name of the lake, but make sure you're saying the wrong one so that he'll correct you and act like you had no clue. And then that makes it even better. And you're like, oh man, I thought, the one time you thought they were on St. Clair.
There's going to be about 4,000 or 5,000 people on an inside joke to one guy. No doubt. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
Somebody will let it slip, no doubt about it. Unfortunately,
no. They'll be telling on you by tomorrow morning at BTL. They'll be on the comments tomorrow morning telling on you.
Yeah, that's all right.
It'll still go worth it. Yeah, be worth it.
Oh, no yeah. Y'all know about the Where's the Bodies, Garth? Y'all,
I don't know about that. What is that?
I don't know what that is.
Huh?
I don't know what that is. What is that?
So, like, there's a couple of not podcasts I watch a bunch of, but like, Joe Rogan's one, and then like Tom Segura, what's it called? Tom Segura and I don't know why I forgot his name. It's the Two Bears, the Bear Cave or whatever. Anyways, Tom Segura started started this deal where he got on Garth Brooks, the singer's. He started saying, "Hey, Garth, where the bodies at? Like the bodies he must have killed to like do whatever." And dude, it has grown into this freaking cult thing where like there are people in stands like holding up big signs, "Where's the bodies at?" in Garth Brooks like shows and things. It has become two bears, one cave. Yeah, Bert. Yeah, if y'all know Bert's the guy who does. They're both stand-up comedians. He does the whole. He's the machine. They're both good. Anyways, dude, he started this "Where the Body's At," and it has gone into this like big phenomenon. Like,
so is there something to it more than it's just a saying? Like they think Garth.
Well, no, yeah, they got into this whole thing about like It's not a long story, but it's kind of like how if you get that big, right? Kind of like politicians and stuff. Like when you get that big, like you had to kill some people along the way to get where you're at, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so so he started this like "Where the body's at" type deal. We know you can't be this person without doing some things along the way. And so, yeah, they just, but it's taken on this whole thing where you can't get onto social media. Garth Brooks' social media.
You got me looking it up now.
It is everywhere. And they all laugh about it because it started with one guy doing this one little thing, and it has blown up like incredible. And so like this whole, all these people, like million people are in on this inside joke. It's great.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, but I'm going to tell you right now, even if 10 or 15 people get on Matt's Instagram and message him.
Oh, he's going to get so pissed.
It'll be hilarious because I'm telling you, that dude gets more messages than anybody I know.
He's one of those guys that gets along with everybody, right? I mean, he gets along with everybody. He's got friends from all different friend groups and stuff. But he's got a mental block with about 5 people, and it's not that he doesn't like them; it's that he's intimidated by them. And he's mentioned it a couple of times, and like. I used to think, you know what, because he's always smiling, joking, and laughing with people. But there's really 4 or 5 people that he's intimidated by, and Todd, you're one of them.
No doubt.
You got him in a bag line somewhere, and I don't know the story, but you were basically like, he tried to talk to you, and you wouldn't.
Dude, his stories are so one-sided on what he thinks, and I just sit there and look at him like, it's like
you just stared at him.
Yeah, I'm like, what, man? I'm over there probably like, trying to stay awake. But I mean, it's funny the way he viewed a lot of our interactions, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like he read into him where I was like, oh, it's Panger over there, and then like just kept going. He's like, oh, did you see the way Todd did that to me? And I'm like, what? So now it's funny though. So now and then this whole other deal, it's great, man.
Matthew's coming out with all kinds of good ideas, kind of like the Free Britney. You should come up with your own hashtag for Matt and have everybody post it.
Yes. Okay, let me work on that. Like wrong leg. Yeah. I'll think of something about the wrong legs. Give me some time on that. I say I'm pretty good. I'm decent at that stuff. Someone in the comments will throw something way better than I come up with.
Yeah, it's got to be something to do with fantasy. Like,
yeah, that's what. Yeah, but I was wrong about that. How I did the whole fantasy on the wrong leg that one time and still beat him, like crushed it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I had like 3 guys in the top 10.
Yeah.
And what was crazy is you were 100% on the wrong leg. It was like Saint. 100%. It was supposed to be like St. Clair, and you were
St. Clair and St. Lawrence.
Yeah.
And I had talked to I picked Mullins in that event, and I talked to Mullins like a couple days ago, and I was telling him about it, about how I was like, dude, I was telling him about how I picked him. He's like, well, I must have done pretty good for you. And I was like, yeah, you did. Like the times I picked you, you did good. I said, I actually picked you for the wrong lake one time because you said you did good up there. So I picked you and you did good. You killed it. But I was like, but I found out later it was the wrong lake. Like I think I don't know which one it was. It was one of the 2.
Well, Matthew come back, hashtag wrong lake rent free.
I like that.
That's
there's going to be, yeah.
Dang, that's so good. And I remember, actually, Panger's had a couple of interactions with Todd I remember they were at a meeting or something, and it was like a tournament meeting. And Panger like walks up to Todd and says something to him, and then Todd just walked away.
Yeah. So he stared at him and didn't say a word and turned
That's
around.
just Panger. That's just Panger making. I remember he didn't come up to me, sat down like 2 or 3 seats over, and then like we ended up getting up because I was working the event. So like I sat down, and then I think I was working for Costa, and so I had to get back up and work. And he was probably like, "Oh, look at him! He just got up and left." I'm like, "Well, no." I said hi, what's up? And then I'm like, I had to go back to work. Yeah.
I think it is, but like, there's not many people I've seen like totally fluster Panger, but you are 100% one of those people that just
I
throw
will
him off
say
so
a lot
bad.
of things go my way, and apparently even at Rayburn, when I was jacking with them about the spinning rod deal, I didn't know about it, but Hallman said that that I guess he lost a big one on a spinning rod after I told him that you can't win a tournament on Rayburn because of the spinning rod deal and you'll lose them.
Oh yeah.
Like, no, you're telling him like the night before the tournament. You stopped by our house. You haven't been there all week, and Andrew and me and Matt are all there, John. And Matt's talking about, well, I'm going to go drop shot all this week, and you go off on him. You said, been fishing this thing my whole life in 30 years, and there's a reason why guys don't win tournaments here with a 6-pound test line and a drop shot and 30-pound bags, blah, 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 blah. And then so the next day,
I wasn't going off on him, but I was telling stories about like
you went off on him. You went off on him.
No, I was giving him advice because another buddy of mine had come down there and fished a tournament years ago. And I was like, hey, dude, if you're going to do that, do this first. You got a better chance. And then I told him all of that and all of this. And I was like, man, I'm just telling you, if you're on that many fish, like up your chances this way and then do the drop shot thing.
Yeah, he just basically said, look, you can hook them, but hooking them and weighing them in are two different deals. That's basically what you were telling him. So fast forward the next day, he's sitting out there on one of his brush piles, got his little Garmin live scope looking at him, and he's like, Tonk, and he sets a hook, and it's a donkey. I mean, like one of the biggest ones he's ever seen in his life. He said it was like 9 or 10 pounds. And as he's fighting it, he's thinking, I'm going to name this fish Todd. And I'm going to call it Todd on stage as I hold it up and weigh it for big bass. And guess what happened? He loses.
It pulled loose. So like I talked to him, he gives me the whole 411 on it. He said he hooks it in this brush pile. It swims out, like luck of the draw, swims out of the pile, gets it out in open water, and he's just chasing it down. 10-pound line, spinning rod. It jumps a couple times, and it goes under the water, and it's just digging, doing its thing, and he's just following it around, and it just comes off. And dude, he was like, Todd's right. I'm an idiot. What am I doing? It made him completely rethink his whole fishing career in that one fish. Like,
I literally guaranteed he could not be your roommate for nine tournaments.
No.
Dude, you would ruin him.
What's funny is like the story I told him was a buddy of mine from West Virginia who came down, and I told him, I said, do this when you get to brush piles. And then the day 3 he calls me and he was like he was crushing in this. He finished 4th in the event. It was like all Texas guys on Rayburn and him. Like he was killing it. And he was like, he called me up and he was like, I was like, man, what happened? He goes, and he tells me this long story about this 9 or 10 pounder, biggest one he's ever hooked on a drop. He said, I got it. I hooked it. He didn't tell me what happened. He said, he didn't tell me what he was doing. He's like, I hooked it. It came up. It jumped out of the water because he said he broke off on it. And I was like, how do you know it was that big? That's I instantly doubt anyone that starts telling me that, right? He's like, well, it jumped. And I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, I saw it. It came straight up, jumped. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, then it went right back down. He got me hung up in the brush pile. I'm like, how did it come out? How did it jump and get you back in the brush? You already did the hard part. And I was like, what were you throwing? And he got real silent. I'm like, were you throwing that stupid drops? Like, he goes, yeah. I said, dude, I told you not to do that. And I told that story to Matt with y'all right there. I said, man, don't do it.
So like, you're in his head so much. And like, he comes home and he's like, you think he's right? And I'm like, dude, the biggest bag of the tournament, 30 pounds, was caught on a drop shot out of piles. Like, no, he's not right. You're right. But like, don't listen to whatever. It's the lesson in all the fishing for everybody watching this show. Don't let somebody else tell you how to go about your business. And the way you fish and the way you want to do it is your business. Now, you got to be willing to accept the good with the bad, because there's a lot of bad going with your way too.
Now, I mean, we'll say this. Hold on.
No.
Put that back up there. That message back up there.
Oh.
He won the event?
No, that was the big bag on day 2.
No, I'm talking about the boy from Louisiana. Who had the 30-pound bag?
But he didn't win the event? But he didn't win the event?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So he didn't win, right? So
yeah, but what the argument was when none of these people were watching, when you were talking to Panger, you were saying those 30-pound bags are not going to come on a drop shot.
I said you won't win, and the reason you won't win is, dude, I will never say you can't catch a giant bag on anything, but it's a 3-day event, and you do stuff over and over and over again on that lake. And if you saw his other bags, you
were talking about 1-day team events, and you were like, they're never won that way. Because remember, my argument was, I said, you bring some of those boys that do that drop shot for a living.
One out of 100. I'm saying in general,
you got to be to fish at the level Painter's wanting to fish at with a drop shot all the time.
Well, yeah, but that's
what catch them like those guys do.
Well, no, but I mean, you might catch them, maybe, dude. That's like 1 out of like 1,000 times that might happen. But over 3 days,
Todd Meyer's not going to do it 1 out of 1,000 times at Rayburn. He's going to catch giant.
No, I'm talking about. Yeah, but we're fishing a 3-day event, and I'm just saying, like, you're going to lose that same thing is going to happen more and more by fishing that way. And when yeah, he didn't catch a full limit day 1 or day 3. And my point is this: I'm not so sure you couldn't have just thrown a worm on those same fish, because I promise you, I've seen enough 30-pound bags come on a worm, and they all came worm in brush piles and caught 30 pounds. Just because he caught him on a drop shot doesn't mean he had to have caught him on a drop shot.
No, my point was my whole point was, when you were having that argument with Panger, was that guys like Cody Meyer, guys like Brent Ayler, if they moved down there to Rayburn and they lived at the Stoke like all those other locals down there, they would be kicking people's asses with a drop shot on a regular basis in the middle of that lake.
No.
Would.
No, they wouldn't.
I actually agree with Hallman on that, because they'd figure out some way to incorporate it to make it work, because that's their confidence bait. Whether it's a leader this long with a big 10-inch worm or whatever, they'd figure out a way to incorporate it to make it work for them. And it might not be a spinning rod.
Listen, I've been fishing that like long. They'd get bit doing it. That's not what I said. But they ain't going to freaking be blowing people out. They're going to get beat a whole bunch of times by other guys, because my deal was this. It's not
that dudes out his name don't get beat by a whole bunch of guys anywhere.
Well, I can tell you, I can tell you the amount of 30-pound bags I've caught out there. It's been quite a bit. And I'm telling you, it's never about tricking them. It's about finding them. Yeah, and I'm telling you right now, Logan had a pile that was, I'm telling you.
No, I know. I get it.
Doing that. That was my point. That they're out there trying to trick fish, and I'm trying to tell you that you don't have to trick them. It's way more about finding them, and finding them is harder.
Well, not only find them, but find them at the time that they're actively feeding. So, like Logan's pile. I'm just using Rayburn as an example. In this example, is that tournament was in September, right, or October? Fishing was tough towards the end of the year. There's big fish in a lot of those piles. Doesn't mean you're going to get one of them to bite. You can't force feed them. Like, they're not going to bite.
They're not going to bite.
You happen to pull up there, let's say, first 20 minutes of daylight or whatever, and they just happen to be down there long before you come, having a little fish party, eating a few crappie, chasing around. They're feeling good. The sun's coming up. This big one sees this big one over here eat a crappie, so now he's jealous. He chases at that one. They're kind of down there doing their little deal, and about that same time, your bait comes in there. And I'm with you. It doesn't matter if it's a drop shot or if it's a 10-inch worm on 25.
A jig, a crank. Like, I've been lucky enough to be friends with a lot of guys that catch 30-pound bags. Phil Marks, we've done it a whole bunch. Jason's. I mean, I know a lot of guys that have done it. I know how they all. I know how 99% of them went down, and most of the time, we ain't tricking them, dude. It's up there and freaking fire out there and freaking catch them as fast. Like everyone's
Andrew,
like,
put that comment up there. Put that comment up there. You know which one I'm talking about.
oh yeah,
No,
because
well,
Andrew knows that ain't right.
Further up. No, further up. One more. Yeah, that's our life, isn't it, Andrew?
Hey, Andrew didn't want to talk about the drop shot on Matsubu because he knows that's not how Matsubu's catching them.
No, that's not how he catches them.
Not how
Exactly. Guess how's he catching them?
Jig.
I know.
That's all he does. He fishes a jig all the time.
And he's
Jig or a worm.
Dude, he's really, really good at it too.
Really good. Maybe
really
he might be the best football jig fisherman I know. Truly.
Dude, I'll go with you on that.
I mean, just absolutely insane his ability when it comes to that. And the reality, if he is, for instance, let's just say he's throwing a drop shot for some odd reason because he doesn't do that much anymore, his partner is going to be dragging a jig. Like, I mean, just what it is.
Catching them.
Rayburn, Toledo Bend, and I could probably name a bunch of other lakes all across the South. If you throw a football jig enough or some type of jig, your chances of catching a bigger than average bass increase dramatically. It always has been the case, always will be the case, as long as we keep fishing the way that we're doing.
And Hallman, I guess that's why you remember when we used to talk about flipping bushes on Rayburn?
Yeah.
And I used to tell you, like, hey, you can't win a tournament doing it, like a 3-day event. Yeah. And you were like, well, look at this. And I'm like, yeah. When I say you can't win a tournament doing it, you remember what I used to tell you, that I was like, you got 150 people flipping bushes and you got 10 people over here throwing a Carolina rig. And when you look in the top 10, 3 of the top 10 are Carolina rig fishermen. And chances are that guy's going to win. And yes, all these guys are flipping, but that's only because you only had 10% of the guys throwing a Carolina rig. If you had it reversed, where 80% of the guys were throwing a Carolina rig, you'd have good chance you'd have 10 out of the top 10 all throwing Carolina rigs. I guess that's what I'm saying about the drop shot, this other deal. You could put 100 guys out there all throwing a drop shot, and someone will eventually catch them. But if you had 100 guys out there throwing it the other way, it's going to be hard to beat all those guys doing stuff that's you're going to lose less fish. You're going to get bigger bites consistently, because talk to a lot of those guys throwing drop shots out there, and they all came in with 5 for 8 over and over. I mean, Logan did it. I mean, it's more about the finding them than it is about tricking them with the drop shot. So I'll say Cody Meyer and them might do it, but it has nothing to do with the drop shot. They might just get out there and find spots better than everyone else.
Well, they would probably find out what you and I already know, which is if they're on, and it's just a lot better to put a big bait with a big line in there and hook up on one that's big. But if you're going to get bit, you might as well get bit with something you can get him out with.
Well, it's like the cranking deal. When we go to cranking them, the two-part is, do we crank them or worm them? Because the cranking deal, you can get them going and it happens fast and it's every cast, and big ones eat a crankbait. But what are you going to do? You can lose one. That worm, you throw a worm, it just Texas rig worm in there, and if they're going to bite it just as good as a crankbait, it's going to be a little bit slower. But then you're not going to lose any. So a lot of times me and Russell, when we were out there doing it, we look at each other going, all right, how do we want to start this off? Do we want to take a chance with a crankbait? Or do we want to just catch everyone on that's when you knew you were going to smash on them.
Yeah.
We never were sitting there going, let's throw that drop shot out there and trickle.
Trickle.
And the reality is like in the tournaments where you had to throw a drop shot, where that was like the bait to throw, it was because it was that bad or that cold. I mean, and typically it was just because it was that cold. And you still didn't have to do it. That
one EverStart tournament, or I don't know what it was back then, a guy won it on a jerkbait. But Tommy Martin, Larry Nixon, there's a couple guys all out there. It's when I started drop shotting. Like I started drop shotting back then with freaking bait caster.
Yeah.
None of them were drop shotting with spinning rods, and it was so cold that year. It was cold, that water, and they figured out how to catch. 12 pounds was a big bag in those events.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were catching like 60, 70 a day on a drop shot. And Brent drew Larry Nixon the final day because Brent made the cut. And Larry Nixon, I know, like Larry Nixon went around throwing a drop shot, and Larry Nixon weighed in at 10 that day on a drop shot. Brent weighed in like a 6-pounder. There was only 2 big ones they caught. But Rayburn. Dude, in like February. And I remember Brent getting up there and they asked Larry something or asked Brent something. And he was like, "Is that your big one?" And he was like, "No, the one Larry's got can eat this one, because he caught a giant on it." But he still only, I think Larry might have won it if he had caught the one Brent had caught. But then he would have had a 10, like a 6 or a 7, and like 3 2 1/4. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of, but I mean, it was good drop shot. Like that's when I learned to do it. I do a lot of,
but that was like, to clarify, that was the one that I think the air temp was like, it was like 16 or 18 or 20. I mean, it was cold as crap. I mean, they caught them like super deep too. Like,
yeah, dude, we were trying to catch. I remember I finished in the top. I made a top 20 in that one, maybe a top 15, and I was trying to catch a limit a day. And I was rattle trapping and doing it. I think I had some deep fish that I could go catch too, a couple. And then I found out what they were like, "Yeah, man, we're going to catch 30 out here, and half of them are going to be keepers." And I'm just going. And when I went and did it after the event, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is easy!" Like it was so easy.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
Not to like catch a big bag, but to catch fish. Me and you did it a year or two after that.
Yeah, we did it a lot. I mean, and it is a thing in like December, like January, February, if it's like solid cold, like for weeks. And,
it's a way. It is a if someone was like, "Hey, I want to learn how to drop shot," I would tell them go to Rayburn.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
Like, you want to learn. You can catch a lot of fish.
Oh my god! Well, yeah, and who cares how big they are? You're learning. Like you're going to get bit doing it all year long, all year. I don't care what time of year it is. I think if someone put a drop shot in their hand every day, every single day of the year, I think you could at least, no doubt, catch 25 fish a day.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I would rather throw something big. That's
So this is interesting. So pretty sure Rambo and Clark are Carolina rig draggers, and they got to be some of the most consistent on Rayburn. And I'd agree with that.
Clark by far is the best Carolina rig dragger there is.
And then Boulware and Collins.
No.
I mean, Collins has caught him forever there.
He is not dragging it. He does not Carolina rig.
No, he does not Carolina rig.
He will, but he's not Carolina rigging that much.
That's like the old school Texas rig draggers. But more so than anything, guys, I just want to say a big thank you for y'all coming on today. The big news today, I had one person say they joined late, was Upshaw Outdoor Media acquired Let's Fish TV. If you get an opportunity, go check out Let's Fish TV on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're going to start working on trying to get an Instagram account set up for that. And obviously go check out Todd and Hallman. They're going to obviously still be a big part of what I'm doing moving forward. And hopefully I'm still a big part of what they're doing, minus Hallman, because he's big leaguing us now in the Elite Series. But we are going to be working together a lot. Todd and I are going to be spending a lot of time together, probably in the next, 6 to 8 months, year, just trying to work on a bunch of Strike King stuff and just a lot of videos and TV as well. But a huge thank you to you guys. I couldn't have done it without you guys. And I just appreciate y'all coming on today.
Absolutely. I feel the same.
Yep. And hopefully over December, we're doing this at least once every 10 days or something. We should have some time.
Yeah, I feel like we'll have some time and we'll be able to do some stuff and hopefully be able to teach a lot of people a lot of different techniques and just talk about fishing in general. I mean, we have a very unique approach to how we do our YouTube channels and what we do, and I'm looking forward to kind of bringing it to everything that we do.
There's your hashtag, Todd. Right there it is. Hashtag Wrong Lake rent free.
Yeah, no.
That's so good.
Hey, so and when we start doing these videos, there's going to be a couple of things we're not allowed to talk about. And like one of them is live scope.
Yeah,
Not allowed to talk about it.
Well, Hallman did a video the other day, and I was like, oh, I actually watched it, and I was like, but I think you had to do a follow-up video, because what I've learned with doing some of these videos, if you mention the word live scope, and it could be in passing, like the video could be a 30-minute video about how to catch them this way, and hey, that guy over there has live scope on his boat. Look at that. And then it's like, live scope should be like, it was funny, right? Like it's instantly, there's a side you have to pick with live scope. You can't just talk about it.
It's like a damn political agenda now. I had a
It
guy
is.
like, we're going to find out soon enough because there's not going to be anything left in the lakes but peckerheads. And I'm thinking, so now everybody's keeping every fish that they catch on live scope?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're laying fillet knives to every one that we get to take to weigh in.
Hallman was talking about how he didn't catch a fish on live scope to qualify for the elites, which we all talked about, right?
Yeah,
that he didn't do.
That's how I got the idea for the video. It was like,
in the 3 opens, he didn't qualify in the overall. He qualified in the central. And we were talking about it. I was like, Hallman never caught a fish on using live scope, right? And you're like, no. And then he said that, and then everyone was like, oh, what about when you were over here? And I mean, it got on this whole deal, and he was like, oh my gosh, listen to the video. This is how, but it's funny how I've done some videos about it, and it where live scopes, I talk about it, but I'm talking about it in a totally different manner. And man, people are like, they instantly hear the word live scope, and it's like, I guess you're crying about it. And then another guy's saying, like, ban them all. And I'm like, this has nothing even to do with it's crazy. But yeah,
I mean, one of my last videos that I did was a crappie video, and I worked my butt off to like edit this video. I did it all on my own, and I mean, it was a hard edit, trying to get everything that everybody wanted in it. And you want to know what my first comment was? Oh, use an active target. Next video. And I'm like, I just want to like, it just sucks, dude. Like, it's not even that I was trying to say. I was just using a new technique, or using a technique to catch crappie and trying to help people, and people just make it way worse than what it was, and it's just crazy. Like, I just don't understand that crap whatsoever.
Well, maybe it's part of like what Chicken Fry they're saying. The guys that it's expensive, right? And there's a lot of guys that just can't put it in their budget to get it, and maybe they're anti until they get it. But
I get that, but I 100% get that. Like, I didn't use one for like years. Like, I couldn't afford one. So like, y'all had it way before me. I didn't go get it, and I was like, I'm not spending the money to go get it. And so like, I understand how they feel. But what I will say is when that was going on, I listened to y'all about it. Like, if y'all talked about it, I listened to everything y'all had to say. I asked a whole bunch of questions. I wanted to. What is
a bundle? Like, Bass Tank's got all their Black Friday sales, and I know that they're stupid cheap. Like, there's Black Friday sales everywhere. But what is the cheapest you can get your hands on one? Like, if you just get the bundle, you get the cheapest screen and the cheapest. What is that number?
So.
I mean, is it $20,000? Is it
No. Bass Tank just posted one with a 10-inch Garmin Echo Map Ultra. So the same unit that I had on my old boat when I was sponsored by Garmin, with a traditional live scope, not the 34, but the 32. So just live scope for $2,000.
Okay.
And it was $2,000. And the reason I know that's because my uncle just bought one. And
well, here's one for $17.99 on the Black Friday sale. That's a live scope unit.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
Well, my point to all that is everyone uses it to talk about. So a lot of my videos, like everyone gets mad because they want to show a how-to tip video on how to catch a fish, and a lot of stuff I talk about is like I said, it's about finding fish and like thinking about different ways to go about it and all these different things. And I was like, live scope, I want to talk more about live scope, about what I've seen with it, rather than ever catching a 10-pounder in a tournament, right? It's so much more about, because I'm a guy who likes to sight fish. I like to look in the water. And I don't think people realize how, like that whole Gunnersville, they're going to realize, guys are like, what are you talking about seeing them in the water? And I'm like, y'all are, I'm looking in the water, looking at them, swimming around, like visually, physically seeing them. And so I like to do that. Well, live scope's a little bit like that. Well, I learn a lot of stuff by looking in the water, not catching fish, but just looking around, like just like a deer hunter looks around the woods, right? I mean, I like to look in my environment. Yeah. And so I'll talk a little bit about that, about different things that I've learned that have nothing to do with catching the fish, that I think was misconceptions for so long, right? About the way we thought about fishing and what live scope can kind of show you differently about that. So I hadn't even talked about the fish catching part of it. The only thing that I'll say for sure is that the crappie fishing with live scope is as fun as it gets. He's 1,000,000% right on that. And anyone that crappie fishes, I'll put it to you this way. If
I crappie fished 10 times more in the last 3 years since I've had live scope than what I was doing. I crappie fished a lot when I was young. You probably did too, Todd. I'm talking about like growing up and learning to fish. But then once that stage of my life kind of went past me, I no longer really went crappie fishing. And now in the wintertime with that live scope, it's just a very enjoyable, fun, productive way to go spend an afternoon at the lake and still get time in on the water and enjoy it. And
every time that, like, so if you look on my boat, I promise you right now, if you go out to my boat and I'm going Thursday, I got my front deck set up, and my back deck will have 3 crappie rods on where someone sits next to me. On that set, there will be 3 crappie rods with jigs there, because if I run across crappie, my entire bass day is over. I will catch crappie until I get my limit or whatever it will. I will not go out there without, because I enjoy that. Catching them like that is so much fun. And I tell any guy who crappie fishes, I was telling a guy this the other day, my daughter plays soccer, one of the dads. I said, if you go, he's like, I really like to crappie fish. I'm like, look, man, if you go buy one, it will be the best investment you ever made. And I said, because you will think crappie fishing is he's like, you don't think it's like not as, I was like, dude, I promise you, bass fishing is not the same, but crappie fishing that way is the absolute best. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, we were actually filming an episode. I was running the camera for Todd, and we were on a lake in East Texas, and he rolled over this like piece of structure. I don't even know what it was. It wasn't a brush pile. It was like some kind of like wooden box or something that somebody dropped in the water, and it had a giant school of crappie on it. And he was throwing a little Strike King rage swimmer out there and was catching them. That and then a jerk bait was catching them every cast, big crappie. And I threw in a little rage swimmer in the same place and catches it like a 9-pounder.
Yeah.
You know, but like the thing is like,
and I went out there a week later and caught crappie out there. Like,
oh yeah,
family. Oh yeah.
But I mean, the reality is like, it's just so addicting. I mean, like, dude, I got onto a school 2 days ago in Toledo, and it was so much fun. Just like, and I was going out there to bass fish. Like that was like what I was going to do. And then it was like, okay, I got to crappie fish now. It's just done. I mean, like I was done. Like I had to.
It's the best, man.
And so to answer Robert's question or statement here, it's not really a question. Not all fishermen can afford live scope. Y'all are sponsored. There's a big misconception when people say that we're sponsored or have been sponsored or whatever. The reality is that I would say 99% of people that have live scope purchase live scope. Now, it might even be a bigger percent. It might be like 99.5% of people who have live scope or any forward facing sonar purchase that. Now, if you can't afford it, I'm never going to knock anybody that can't afford something. If you can't, I mean, it is what it is. But at the same time, if you look at most anglers that come out here and own a boat, whether it be a 20-foot boat or a 10-foot boat, that own a boat, they put electronics on it, they put a motor on it, they put all these things on it. If it is a priority of yours and you want it, you can figure out a way to cut things out of what you've already spent money on, whether it be rods or reels or baits or whatever, and save money. Maybe you save $5 a paycheck and you get it in 3 years or whatever it is. But you can figure out a way to get something if you really want it. I know when I got my first live scope, I bought it. Hands down, bought it full price. I didn't get no deal on it. I didn't get it at 50% off or 20% off. I bought it with my money because I saw just how big a deal it was going to be. And I knew how important it was for me to learn how to use it. Now, not everybody has that same commitment. I know Todd bought it full price. I mean, it's just, that's just the reality of it.
What else? So I'm trying to get into when we have conversations like this, I try to get like in a different mindset.
You know, we were going down this road before I had this Garmin shirt on, and we were sitting there having this conversation.
No, I didn't.
I'm really rethinking my position on this.
No, I'm gonna talk. This is what I'm gonna say good about it. Like, well, I mean, I've only discussed about where I've never gotten really mad about live scope. I've always gotten mad about where it's going to go in the future, right? About any of this stuff. Like, is technology going to get too much? That's all. My whole stance on all this, I've never said ban it, never said anything like that. I've always just said, when will it stop? Like, are we going to look up and the guys have nine units on their boat, right? That was my only deal. What I'll say is this, is regardless of whether I had it or don't, there's one thing I'll say, like 2 or 3 statements. One is you've never met a guy with live scope that didn't like it and that didn't say it wasn't worth the money. Okay. So at least if you're going, like you guys will go buy vehicles, right? And if you ask them about their vehicle, they like, yeah, I don't like this truck, or I don't like that. Not one person probably in the country will ever sit there and say it wasn't worth the money and they didn't enjoy it. Not saying we need to have it. I'm just saying, but if you're actually out there fun fishing, and I never thought about this, right? Because I always made the argument that you're trying to, we spend the money because of the tournament and the money aspect of it. But 90% of these guys fun fish. And if you just listen to our 3 of our conversations in the past 10 minutes, we all just explained about how much fun we had crappie fishing with it. That like we all started crappie fishing and that how much fun we had, and that we will stop bass fishing to fun fish for crappie because of it. If you fun fish and you think this might be something that's fun, go out with someone that has it. And this is the bad part. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to like this comment. If you go out there with someone that has it and you go crappie fishing with them, it will pretty much be impossible for you ever to go back crappie fishing without it, because you will understand why. I mean, it's something you have to experience. And I'll say that if you are a guy who likes to fun fish, live scope is going to make fishing more fun at times.
Yeah, and I've always been a proponent of like a lot of guys know about my Chinese reels, you know, that I was buying Chinese reels on eBay for like $25. And I won a $100,000 tournament using them. So that was against some of the best pros in the world. And that was a piece of technology that exists today that you don't have to necessarily compete at the highest level. There's other things, your casting skills and time on the water and reading water. A lot of other things go into it besides having a $600 reel. You guys are just like me. We've had guys hand us rods and reels before. They got over $1,000 invested in it. And they're like, here, what do you think of this? And you're like, wow, never felt anything that light. But you don't have to have that to get the job done. You know what I mean? Electronics are an opinion-based deal, like side imaging and everything else. Where I'm going at with this is that the live scope is a piece of technology that is a difference maker, unlike anything else. Now, it doesn't catch every fish in the world. There are guys that are better at it than others. It's just like anything else in fishing. There's guys that specialize at sight fishing like Castledine. There's guys that specialize in live scope right now, and it's not everybody's going to be able to dominate and win with it. And it's not that every fish in the lake eats it, but man, it is a big difference maker. And I'm the guy that likes to fish shallow. Like I turn all my grass off, everything when I'm fishing shallow. I like to use a rod as my depth finder. I'll do it for multiple reasons. I understand kind of the depth concept real easy. It's just quick, boom, hit the bottom. It also tells me bottom content in springtime, which is a big deal. A lot of guys kind of get past and forget about while they're out there fishing. And, I like to use my rod tip and fish that way. But
you brought up
from this subject, dude.
No. You brought up something really cool, homie. That like we all fish our strengths because we like them. Our strengths are the things that we're the best at and that we like the best. We're not good at something and we don't like it. Like I love frog fishing, right? I think I'm pretty good at it. Hallman likes to flit. It's probably the best thing he's good at, but he likes it more than anything else. Sight fishing. Andrew likes to do Andrew probably would rather sit out there and drag a jig around. Well, I don't know anymore. He used to. But
I'm not like that anymore.
Not anymore. Right. So things will change, right? What I'll say about when Hallman said that about live scoping, he can live scope, but Hallman, when he gets to a lake, isn't thinking, let me turn on my live scope and go live scope.
Right.
I'm the same way. Like I got to Gunnersville. I never turned live scope on the entire time I was at Gunnersville. Or I turned it on one time and I was like, I don't need this. And so I never turned it back on again. And I fished the way I like to fish. There are other guys who got to that lake, drove out to the middle of that lake, put down their live scope, and that's what they did. We also just talked about how live scoping can be fun. Some of those guys went out and live scoped to catch 2 fish all day. That don't sound like fun to me at all. I don't want to be signed up for that. But there's other times when I've gone out there and caught like a whole bunch live scoping and it was fun. Like it was fun because it was really good at that time to do that little thing. That's why crappie fishing is fun, because you can go out there and catch freaking as many as you want.
Yeah.
That's why I like live scoping for crappie. It's fun because you catch a bunch. And that's what I'm saying is that like we don't always live scope. I like live scoping when it's really awesome and it's really good. But if it's not, I don't really want to go do it. I can go sight fish for 5 fish in a tournament in just those 5, and it takes me an hour and a half to catch each one of those. That's fun for me. There's guys that live scope like that are out there for like 5 fish on it. I mean, I don't want to do that.
It aggravates the living fire out of me when I get out there live scoping around, and like I'll have them chase me, and I'll fish for like 20 different fish and not catch one.
It's been like 2 hours and you ain't gonna fish.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm done. Like I can't do it for that.
No,
if I'm not catching them at a fairly consistent basis, like it throws me off. Like I can't handle it. But
it's good. It's fun.
Oh yeah.
Everyone will say it's fun, and my point to all that was, if you enjoy fishing, right? If you enjoy fishing, then it's the one time I will suggest live scope. If you enjoy fishing, there are times that live scope 100%. You will never meet someone that doesn't say when it's going on, it is fun. If you think that if you're going to look at it that way and go, okay, those guys are talking about how fun it is it worth $2,000? And we're all probably telling you, I know $2,000 is different for a lot of people, but if your whole deal is you like to fish and you want to, and it's fun for you, and you think it's cool, and that's $2,000, you will get done with that $2,000 and go, I don't care how long you worked for $2,000. I promise you'll go, that was worth it. That's all I'm saying. And that's a guy who's been not hot and cold with it. I just opinionated about it, but it is a by far fun way to fish. Like it is fun. You will not regret having one. That's all I'll ever say.
I'll say this. I regretted having active target a couple of days ago on Toledo. So I'm going around there and I'm finding all these big bait balls and I'm seeing all these big fish swimming around. And I caught more catfish than I've ever caught in my entire life in one day, throwing a jerkbait, a deep diving Shark King jerkbait, using active target. Dude, I mean, the catfish were everywhere.
Isn't
And
that
it was
crazy?
like, I'd catch like 8 catfish, and then I'd catch a bass. And I'd catch 8 catfish, and I'd catch a bass. And you never knew what it was going to be. Like, the catfish were swimming 2 or 3 at a time.
And they're
And
all
like,
5-pounders, right?
oh, yeah. And you'd see them, you'd jerk that jerk bait above them, and they'd go up and be like, oh, he's about to eat it. And I mean, just clobber it. I mean, it was so much fun. My father-in-law goes out there with me, and he's like, dude, I've never caught so many catfish in my life. I mean, like, straight catfish slayer. And I was like, I called Barry, and I was like, man, I should probably do a catfish show using active target and jerk bait, because
Jerking.
how do you ever
What
replicate
kind were they? Were they blue cats or channels?
Oh, yeah.
channels? Every one of them was channel catfish.
Oh, channels?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I catch
It-
one.
it
I
was
catch
That'd be
great.
a very different show and unique.
Oh, it would have been crazy. I mean, people, but you know the problem. Here we go back to it. If I do a show using active target or any forward-facing sonar, about
Jerking
half
bait.
of them are sitting there talking about how great it is and how cool the show is, and the other half of people are like, "That's stupid. I can't believe you're freaking talking
Well,
about that, and it's so boring." And
yeah.
it's just like, good lord, you can't make
That
everybody
would be an
happy.
awesome show, but yeah.
Dude, it would be an awesome show. Like, it was I'm telling you, it was one of the most fun days I've had, and I think the biggest bass I caught was 3 pounds, and all the rest was just freaking giant catfish all
See,
day
and
long.
Jared just said stripers too. I haven't. So I grew up on Livingston, but I want to go. I want to get out there at Texoma or like Whitney or Buchanan and stuff, and go do that for stripers, because like it's got to be. That's got to be pretty awesome.
Dude, I did it at a Washita for stripers, and it
Was it?
was incredible. I
Oh
mean,
man.
giant ones.
Hey,
Like,
have they figured this out for like saltwater?
Yeah, the
so,
new one is like,
yeah,
they got a big mega one. It shoots like, I don't know, a lot further than ours do, but it's a great big transducer. It's like 800 feet or something like that it goes for.
Because Billy, the way they used to tarpon fish, and the way when I went out there with them when they're casting at them, like back then when I did it with them a couple of years ago, we'd get out in there in the middle of them when they're all doing, and I'm like, well, how do he goes? Well, you just got to get lucky, kind of throw in front of one head, and you got to lead them. Like one will surface and you lead them, but you really don't know how deep they are. But I could imagine getting on one and throwing at them over and over and over again because you see them go like catching tarpon. That's got to be
where I've actually used it in
tarpon here.
saltwater.
There it is, right there. Click on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way we've used it so far is on rigs and those like artificial reefs and wrecks and stuff, and you can go catch trout and reds. And I mean, dude, the bad thing is about saltwater is there's just so many fish on. Like, if you shine it out there, dude, it's like solid fish
Oh, is it?
everywhere. I mean,
But
so
a
many.
tarpon, know you can't. The tarpon's got to look like this on your screen.
Dude, they're big. Everything's big. I mean, it's just
Everything's
crazy.
big out there. Everything eats everything out there.
I mean, it's great. Like, I can't imagine. Like, it's gonna eventually happen because we shoot enough inshore shows that I'm gonna see a shark swim across one and just freak me out. Like, I'm like, oh my god, it's a giant,
Yeah.
and see the fins and everything.
See,
But guys, as much fun as this conversation has been, I do have to go. I know we are going to be back. We're going to be back on live probably next week sometime, or the week after, around in that range. I don't know about Hallman's schedule. I know Todd and I have already talked about it. But guys, I really appreciate y'all coming on, and I really appreciate you viewers and all the fans and all my friends. I call them my friends because that's just what they are. I mean, I play Warzone with some. And we just hang out with everybody. But don't judge me, Hallman. I don't need your judgy eyes right now.
Keep playing that beep, 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 and your beep, beep, bop, and by the end of the summer, your thumbs will be so strong. You'll be starting on the first team. That's what one of my buddies told me in high school. His daddy came in, and we were sitting there in the summertime, and he's like, "What the hell are y'all doing?" And we're like, "Playing Nintendo," and he's like, Yeah, that's it. Play your beep, 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 and your beep, beep, bop, and get them thumbs all worked up. You'll be starting by next damn year. Get out of the house. Get out.
Where's this Hallman been all day?
Golly.
Man, oh
Oh,
man.
J.D. Airwood. Nothing like childhood memories.
No doubt. Well, guys, it's been a good one. Make sure y'all go check out Todd Hallman and Let's Fish TV, and I will see y'all on the next one.